Good evening to everyone in the chat room. Those of you listening on the live streams, welcome to GLPVC's The Raw Feed Live, a social media content wholly owned by GODLIKEProductions.com and its parent companies. Be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube at youtube.com/GLPVC The Raw Feed Live and sign up for full archive shows at members.therawfeedlive.com. Today, it's Monday, February 18th, 2013. Folks, we have one awesome show to start off the week here on the Raw Feed Live as we welcome back GLP's favorite duo and cohorts, Sherri Kane and Dr. Len Horowitz. Sherri Kane is a news commentator, political activist, and investigative journalist who defected from Fox News Los Angeles for ethical reasons. She has written extensively on Barack Obama's history. She has exposed the pharma media links between the wealthiest Wall Street investors and social engineering advanced by the pharmaceutical industry. She has also exposed America's most notorious conspiracy theorists that are leading propagandists for white supremacy theology and vetted the COINTELPRO-like creation of the conspiracy industry as a protection racket for the white-collar crime securing the real world of commercial conspiracy in arms and drug trades. She's tracked several agents' involvement in pedophilia, child sex slavery, and human trafficking. As a psychosocial analyst and journalist, Ms. Kane advocates for abused women and children around the world and has been interviewed all over the world, including True TV's Conspiracy Theory with Jesse Ventura, Al Jazeera, The Verita Show, BBC Talk Radio Europe, The Liberty Hour, Late Night in the Midlands, and many other radio and internet broadcasts. Dr. Leonard Horowitz is a Harvard-trained expert in behavioral science, media persuasion technologies, research and development, and the author of 17 books, including 3 American bestsellers, Emerging Viruses, AIDS and Ebola, Nature, Accident or Intentional, Healing Codes for the Biological Apocalypse, and Healing Celebrations, Miraculous Recoveries through Ancient Scripture, Natural Medicine, and Modern Science. Dr. Horowitz' Advanced Healthy World Organization, or HWO, is an alternative to the duplicitous World Health Organization. Dr. Horowitz is a favorite on YouTube. In fact, before the trolls started their harassment and defamation campaign against him, only Deepak Chopra was more popular as an alternative medicine doctor. And even with complicity by Google and YouTube now being exposed in a lawsuit advancing in Hawaii against these demons, Dr. Horowitz is still considered the best credentialed, most controversial doctor on YouTube. His commentaries about organized crime and the drug trade are shocking. His solutions are revolutionary and will ultimately impact medicine, and in the music industry, he will also impact the most powerful with the music of 528 Hertz, the pure tone of love, the universal healer. You can find out more about Sherri and Dr. Len if you go to either sherrikane.com or drlenhorowitz.com and also waronwethepeople.com. Tonight's host or hosts is a roundtable of the VC team, starting off with our executive producer of the Raw Feed Live, Phenomenon, and Finn will also be taking your text questions as Isis is down with the flu. Chiming in as well will be Kingman Art and Sunny Cardona, and making sure our show is of the highest quality as possible is our sound engineer, Jay the Man. Now remember, you can call into the Raw Feed Live using our call-in line at 347-826-9314 if you wish to call in with a great question and talk with our guests live on the air. Also, at our Blog Talk homepage, you will see a Skype button if you wish to call us via Skype as well. And now, without further ado, and please don't piss her off, seriously, the Queen of Mean herself and our most awesome producer, Phenomenon.
Hey, thanks, Raggy. Well, welcome back, Sherri and Dr. Len. How are you both this evening?
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you for having us back on, Fen. We love you.
We love you guys too, man. You know, I wish we can have you on more often. I know you guys got your own radio show, so would like to plug that right now. Would you like to tell everybody where your show's located at and what hours?
Yes, you can go to latenightinthemidlands.com, or you can also go to 528talkradio.com. And we are on Monday through Friday, 2 p.m. Pacific time, 5 p.m. on the East Coast. So, we're called the HOROKANE Hour.
Yeah, all right.
And we have that name because we were named that by the leading white supremacist COINTELPRO agent provocateur Truod. He named us the HOROKANE Perfect Storm. and referencing our last names, Horowitz and Kane. And that's how he came up with it, in case anybody's wondering where we got the name. And we sort of now use that name for our show and for marketing purposes. So in Feng Shui, it would be reversing the energy into something positive and useful.
Tell your friend True Aunt that he could suck on my left tit. Give that guy a plug too. All right.
Wow.
So glad to have you guys back. Listen, I'd like to jump into something here. We briefly touched on a pre-show. Dr. Len, I'd like to know what your thoughts are on this. A couple of weeks ago, I saw an episode of Grey's Anatomy, which got me thinking about where we're headed, especially with Obamacare. There's a character on Grey's Anatomy. She lost her leg. She's an amputee. And months later, even after getting fitted with a prosthesis, she has been experiencing phantom pain to a point where she can't even stand in surgery. Very painful. And the chief surgeon had said, really, there's nothing we could do about it except this type of mind over matter therapy. So he got a long mirror and he put it in between her stump and her leg. And he said, now imagine that your leg is there. He also put her in a chair with 3D glasses and this big, huge, monstrous big screen TV. And it made her feel like she was sitting at the ocean, because what she saw was 3D waves coming in front of her. And she would have to sit there for an hour or 2 hours a day of therapy for mind over matter healing. I've done some investigation here by talking to my personal surgeon, and that type of therapy is now starting to be used a lot. I'm just wondering, is this stuff really effective? Or is it just a cheap way of getting out of pay for, healthcare? Because right now, a couple of months ago, it was probably around December, we started getting reports and seeing articles where they're going to be making pain medications difficult to get written for you. I realize that some people are get addicted to the OxyContins and the real hard narcotics, but there are people that really do need them. And with that said, is Big Pharma going out the door? What are your thoughts on this? Do you have any insight of where we're headed in the medical field at all?
Well, Jewish, thanks, Ben. Great question. And we could actually spend more than the 2 hours on this question alone, because pain itself is such an amazing phenomenon. It goes into various aspects, from body chemistry to literally the metaphysics and spirituality of energy itself, and how it affects us, and how mind over matter, like you're saying, what is it about the mind, or what is it about somebody's heart that can actually generate heartfelt loving intention to overcome not just pain, but actually create physical healing. The subject is so powerful. And, I have a little story myself. Way back in the early 1980s, when I was at Harvard and I was asked to apply for a position at Mass General Hospital in the pain clinic there. And one of the nation's most premier experts in pain therapy was the department chairman. And I came in as an interviewee, and he asked me all sorts of questions of what my perspective on pain and pain control and alternative therapies were for pain. And I started to talk, and about a half an hour later, he interrupted me and he says, "I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to bring you into the department." And I said, "Well, why is that?" He said, "Because the way you were talking, it would shatter the paradigm that all of my graduate students are active in." And so that's where really Big Pharma is. They've been stuck in a paradigm where the slash, burn, and poison approach to medical therapy, and the orientation of a body being simply chemistry is inadequate. It's outdated, and where medicine has to go is into this field of energy. And in terms of bioenergy, you're looking at sound and light, you're looking at frequencies, you're looking at ultimately the same technology that the creator uses. I love the name Godlike Productions, because we are the Godlike Productions. We are simply, literally, if you look at what a human being is composed of, and you begin to answer the question, how is it possible that you could have mind over matter? Well, you start with the matter itself. we are 80% ocean water. And according to the Old Testament, the book of Genesis 1:1 and 1:2, you're really talking about God. The triune God, according to Jesus and the Old Testament, is made of the Creator, the water, and the Holy Spirit. And so that's the original Trinity. And then you look at the other 20%, if 80% of our bodies are God, and then you look at the other 20%, it's minerals, it's lava rock. All the minerals on the planet come from lava rock. And what are minerals? Well, if you start to study them, the atomic structures, you're seeing most importantly the electrons. And when you look at yourself in a mirror or we see each other, what we're actually seeing is not the larger atomic particles. We're not seeing the protons or neutrons. We're actually seeing electrons, which actually the scientists, physicists claim are not really just particles. They're waves. They vibrate, they rotate, they spin with certain frequencies of energy. And each one is a little unique in its spin and frequency. And each layer or the levels of which they're rotating around the larger atomic structures is basically what makes one electron or one atom, an element, different from another. And so when you start to pull it all apart, you see that it's energy, pure energy, that we're created and sustained and healed by. And if you then begin to realize the heart is far more powerful than the head, and that if you have a heartfelt, loving intention to heal or get rid of pain or to watch pain disappear, watch that simple fact is that, when you start to be a pain patient or you start to be a pain therapist, you ask the person to concentrate and focus on what the pain is and where it is, and suddenly you realize that it's not static. It moves around, it changes form, it has all sorts of different components. And then when you begin to realize that it changes, that it's not, you're not having to suffer with it constantly forever, then you realize you can get some control over that process. And so that therapy that you mentioned, where you're kind of like putting a person into a creative process, where you're thinking of waves, you're thinking of refreshing a flow of ocean water, which again is God, flowing over a pained phantom limb. Suddenly now you begin to realize you have control over the pain. You can play with it. You can do all sorts of things with it. You can shift it, modify it, and sedate it versus just be the victim of it.
And it also has to do with perception too, because they wanted to create a perception that the leg was still there, that the leg was normal. And so when the woman would look at her leg, she would still see it the way it was before, and it would calm her down, which would reduce her pain and therefore distract her away from the pain and to something more peaceful, along with the waves and the ocean and the thoughts that the leg was still intact.
All right. Well, let me ask this. Why can't the same type of procedures or methods, we're going to use the term methods, be used for people who have a chronic weight problem or, chronic drug users or, you know what I'm saying? Chronic drinkers, because there's got to be some sort of willpower.
That's right. Exactly.
Yeah.
And willpower is actually the best phrase for it. You think about how the Creator gave human beings one of the greatest blessings of willpower, the power to choose what your reality and perception is of reality, looking at the glass as half empty versus half full. It's a moment-to-moment choice that's made by your will. And then, this concept that what you're bringing up involves our perception of reality. What's real and what's not real, and what's temporal, what can change over time, and how does it change?
Well, to an obese person, the Big Mac is real. You know what I'm saying? So what I'm trying to understand is, if you've got somebody in that mindset who's even a cigarette smoker, all right, just have that one. they can't, like a Lay's potato chip, you just can't stop at one.
Yeah.
If these type of people cannot do that, possess their own willpower to diet, to quit smoking, to not do drugs or not drink, how is mindful healing? We're going to call it mindful healing. Are they going to be the type of person to be able to heal themselves?
That's definitely possible, but I also can see like a psychological effort to help people that are obese by maybe creating an image of them that isn't obese, that's in perfect shape, themselves in perfect shape, where they can actually see themselves in that light and be able to perceive themselves in that light, and then realize what it would take to get to that place where they could be there, and maybe have them on a program which would gradually take them there through a diet, through exercise, but through a change of mindset, and
right.
How they look at themselves that way and say, well, I can see how I'd be much happier. And even then maybe putting them with a very attractive significant other that they could have when they would be in a more perfect shape. Just more of a reality that could be theirs if they choose.
More or less, it's esteem. I would, in my opinion, it would be 80% self-esteem, because if you're not happy within yourself, be a depressed person, be a troubled person, could be a murderer,
right,
a criminal. Everything stems back to what's gone on in your life.
Exactly. What's the root cause of that? What's the root cause of that depression? That's really what they need to find out.
I actually know somebody who has beaten cancer 3 times. That this woman should be buried. And it's amazing how you see some people that they get the treatment that it should be gone. And, well, we're not even going to go down that road, the chemicals that they're putting in everyone's body. But you've got people who have that will, and you have people that give up. And I believe that's also a spiritual thing too, with it, within you. I have seen where the body can heal itself, but my concern is I'm trying to wrap spirituality in with politics, because I see with Obamacare that people are not going to be getting the care that they should be getting. And we're not even going to use the term alternative medicine or holistic. I don't even think they'll go there. Not too long ago, there was talks about them banning vitamin C. So my concern is for the people, are they going to end up suffering? Do these techniques actually, in your opinion, both of your opinion, do you think these techniques really, for how society is right now, are they more beneficial to the patient, or are they harmful at this point?
Well, first of all, I think that they're extremely beneficial, and I think they've been grossly neglected. It's kind of like the free energy technologies that are available, the Tesla technologies, they've been suppressed. And likewise, I've had so many experiences. One of them is having become good friends with Myron Bursinko and Joan Bursinko back at Harvard in Tufts days, where they pioneered the field of psychoneuroimmunology. And that field basically says how you think affects your neurological functioning, your endocrine function, and your immune function all simultaneously. And they proved it. They literally created scientific experiments to show the integration of them all. And that work is largely suppressed because the druggists, the chemists, want to simply sell the concept of popping magic pills and quickly get over what ails you. And that's a fraud. It is a system that is totally fraudulent, misrepresentations, omissions, and the biggest omission of all is what you're talking about. If you look at self-esteem and you ask who you are as a human being, well, the best definition of who you are I actually go into in great detail in the book of 528, Prosperity, Key of Love, and I would urge everybody to read it because it'll change your life completely. It'll completely uplift you to see how the Creator works to sustain and uplift and heal everything. and you're a part of everything. In fact, you're actually 80%, as I said, you're 80% God. You're 80% ocean water, and that's part of the triune God. And this concept of knowing who you are, the best definition of who you are, that is, I think, very esteeming. And people lose sight of this, and they are not taught about this, and this whole thing is suppressed. You are a digital, bioholographic precipitation, crystallization, miraculous manifestation of divine frequency vibrations coming out of water. So let me give you that again so you get it. You're a digital. That's a mathematical. The entire universe operates by a musical mathematical matrix. There's only 9 core creative frequencies in that matrix. Everything else are harmonics off of the fundamental 9. The third note of that original musical scale in the perfect circle of sound is love, 528 hertz frequency. And that's the reason grass is green, the reason that the heart of the rainbow that is showing you the sunlight through water, the rainbow is greenish yellow. That's your heart chakra color. That's there for a reason. It's not a coincidence that greenish yellow is what the 5,000-year-old practice of Oriental medicine has decreed is the color of your heart chakra, greenish yellow. And that reflects chlorophyll, which provides the oxygen that we're breathing. That prana or ha or aloha spirit, that breath of life, carries the frequency at the heart of the rainbow, which is the heart of the sunshine. And NASA recorded the sound of the sun, and it waffles right around 528 hertz frequency. And we've taken a 528 tuning fork, and we've compared the sound of the sun recorded by NASA and confirmed the fact that it is waffling right around 528 hertz, and that is consistent with the light of the sun, which is resonating at the heart of the electromagnetic color spectrum, the heart of the rainbow, which is 528 nanometers. And so if it's true for the heart of the sun, and it's true for the heart of the rainbow, it's true for the heart of chlorophyll in the botanical world that gives us the breath of life, the ha that we breathe, that sustains us, then it's true for you and your heart too. And so now you begin to ask, well, what is sound? What is light? And again, you get back to the same concept. It's an electron. It's the energy particle of the universe. Whether it's a blink of your eye and the nerves firing in your brain, or whether it is a comet flying through space, it's all moved by the same thing that allows us to see each other and ourselves. And that is an electron particle. And that it is constantly moving, and it brings you into the metaphysical. It's not simply physical. It's not simply a wave. It's not simply energy. It's something in between that is mysterious that the physicists can't even fathom how it's produced and created, but they're studying it, and they're concluding what it is yes, you can, just like Einstein said, you can change the outcome of the experiment by your attitude and your position where you're performing the experimental observation. So if you're observing pain in your body, or you're observing yourself as obese, what the main function problem is, you've lost the self-esteem. You've lost the God-like production of who you are, so that you then now lack self-esteem. You're in what Sherri talks about as self-loathing. People hate themselves. They hate their self-image. Sherri mentioned the importance of positive self-image. To an obese person, they've lost that concept. And so again, in your experiment that you read about, they've created a virtual physical leg, and they have, because of that, then they've retuned the person back to an esteemable physical self. And this is really the most important, dynamic within the paradigm of healing, that if you don't have this knowledge, and if you think that you've got to run to medical deities to bring you the healing, and you don't realize that all healing takes place because of the spirit energy. It's not the chemistry. Every single chemical reaction that is produced by the drugs, every single one, is mediated by the sound and light signaling from the DNA, what's called cellular upregulation. From the DNA, which is an antenna to God virtually, it receives sound and light signals and it outputs them so that the cells can communicate intercellularly via sound and light frequencies. In fact, the global industrialists that make money off of humanity's suffering, the drug cartel, doesn't want you to know how important this function of DNA is. They call it junk DNA. They actually call it junk, as God made a mistake. He defecated in every single cell, and basically now you've got a bunch of junk DNA, and in fact, that's about 96% of DNA they call junk. They focus.
Kane talks a lot about that.
Yeah, it's disgusting what they've done, and this is all a gross deception. It's a protection racket over their barbaric approach to healing. And it's done simply to manipulate the minds of the people and the physicians. You know, remember, when you become a medical doctor, you have literally gone through a cult indoctrination process that involves the same type of indoctrination. You're dealing with sleep deprivation. They don't let the residents sleep for days. You've got peer pressure. You've got these department chairmen and teachers that are extremely strict and they abuse you. You're under extreme stress and pressure financially and socially to get in sync with the agenda. By the time you're done, the abuse, you literally have been traumatized, indoctrinated into the cult, which is outrageously insane, barbaric, and a risk to public health and safety.
I agree, Doctor. You're 100% right. I guess, we have to, again, think that we're healed. Again, our mind is very powerful, and that's something that, again, they're trying to take away from us. And what do you say about, again, this, like the low frequencies, again, in HARP and, again, through chemtrails and things that they're attacking us? We're living in an electronic world now where we have cell phones, Wi-Fi, and, we're living in almost like an electronic age where our bodies for the first time are being exposed to these things. And again, the Illuminati, they're putting, the cell phone at these certain frequencies that cause cancers. What do you say to that? How can we protect ourselves from those, those energy fields now that are going against us?
Well, there's a couple of things. The first thing I would recommend everybody do is check out 528radio.com and 528records.com. And what we've been investing in heavily is what we believe is the only solution to what you're talking about and virtually the insanity of humanity. And that is the frequency of love. And you can surround yourself with that most powerful energy. And again, it is the energy that chlorophyll resonates with. And everybody knows, when you're stressed out, you go into nature, you jump in the ocean, you're going to get this vibration and purification and relaxation response. And the same thing when you go out into the forest and the resonant energy color actually going into your eyes, the windows of your soul, whereby also, think about it, your tears are salt water. They are virtually God flowing forth to purge you of the sadness and grief and even happiness. It's an expression of your emotions. And flowing from the windows of your soul is from the soul, you then see the love. You feel and you experience this light of greenish yellow coming in. And this is what's called color therapy. And color therapy is extremely effective, as is the essential oils. And where do the essential oils come from? And the frequency resonance of the oils, they come from the electron of love in the plants that are received by the chlorophyll in the plants. So these are some of the revelations in the book of 528, Prosperity Key of Love. And key is a musical note. and it's 528. And here's what is not only the protection, as I mentioned, like, I carry a 528 tuning fork around in the car with us. Whenever we get stressed out, we take it out and we just ping it and listen to it and chant to it and sing it. And that basically creates an instantaneous relaxation response. And you're listening to medicinal music when you're listening to 528 radio. And we ask for people, it's all done by donation. We ask for the musicians to donate music to it, and people who donate their musical albums to and create albums. And we actually give the recording artists a 60% royalty on all the money that's donated, because we're trying to create an alternative to the music industry, which is controlled just like the medical industry is by the international banksters. And now here, if you talk about the risks of HAARP and chemtrails and all the frequencies, as you mentioned, that the cell phones also, what they're outputting, and you have to also include in that list of risks, you've got to include standard music. Now, you tune into any radio station today or listen to any record or album, and what you're listening to is a Rockefeller Foundation imposed standard tuning music, what's called A440, which is the standard for tuning in the music industry, became the concert tuning pitch in 1938, when the Rockefeller Foundation, working with RCA and EMI, British intelligence, doing military acoustic weaponry research and development. They were actually searching for ways in which they could, quote, cause mass hysteria, end quote, in targeted populations for military arenas, war arenas, so that they could beam certain frequencies and incapacitate the targeted populations, and that they came out with the fact that if you tune or play the frequency of A440, then it has a most degenerative and stressful effect on the body. And so if you understand A440 standard tuning, and we've done a lot of research now, and people can get the basic information on love528.com. It's a website we put together for musicians. And you begin to then study what happens when you tune your instruments or your voices to the standard tuning, the imposition for the Western world, the A440. Your F-sharp note, which is very dominant in your D chord, which is played very commonly in now the Western world in this standard tuning, goes into a frequency of gross dissonance to love. Gross dissonance, disharmony with healing and relaxation. It puts you into a stress vibration, and that is 741. And that is the F-sharp note in the normal octave scale, where your A is A440. Now, for musicians and people, just for a little bit of understanding, when you tune up 4 hertz from A440, then your C note, which is the C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, it's the beginning of an octave. And your C note then in A444 goes into C528. That means that by simply tuning up a little sharper, then you go into sync with all of nature. And when you do that, most sensitive people, in fact, in musicology, there are terms for this. One is called frisson. It's part of what's called ecstatic listening. I'm sure you probably listened to music on occasion and had it just be so wonderful that you got shivers up your spine or goosebumps. And that Kundalini rush up your spine is what in musicology is called frisson, F-R-I-S-S-O-N. And that frisson feeling and experience is caused when you are literally virtually in the flow of joy and harmony and love. And the best musicians and vocalists, they come from their hearts. They sing from their hearts. Their bodies become an instrument. You can see in a number of people like Ray Charles, blind man as he is, the most profoundly wonderful entertainer and musician and vocalist. He's in sync. He is the music. So basically, that's the concept where you go into sync. In physics, it's called phase locking. You phase lock or entrain to the healing power of love. It is just like tuning your digital radio to a certain channel where, for example, if you're listening to 98.6 and you are listening and grooving to your favorite song and somebody comes along and changes it 1/10 of 1 hertz, 98.7, suddenly you get static. We'll multiply that static 40 times. And now you've gone into where this 4 hertz difference is. In other words, if your A444 brings you into love and healing, if you go A440, that's 40 times difference from what your radio experience or example is. You've got static, 40 times the amount of static, and that's how it is, to me, in my opinion, how the spiritual suppression and, in fact, egocentrism has been generated by frequency for the control, the mass control of civilization. And so that, to me, is the primary risk. It's the primary factor, and it's also the primary solution to what ails us. Because if we can recapture this understanding, if we could then play the music and sing the music and vibe to the music and retune ourselves, our own body, physical instruments, into that Holy Spirit power of love, there's your paradigm not simply shifting, it is shattering. The old medical paradigm, which is barbaric, is shattered by this information.
And also frequencies are put into light. It causes cancer, some light, and they even can put that into products.
Well, we expose this. Like if you go to oxysilver.com and you see the abuse that we've taken by the people that want to steal oxysilver or degrade it, and you look at the competitors of oxysilver, you take a look at, for example, the Silver Sol company. We have silversolfraud.com. These guys stole my intellectual property. They committed consumer fraud. And who are they? Well, gee whiz, on the board of directors of American Biotech Labs and Clifton Mining Corporation is Homeland Security officials.
Wow.
Who want you to take a silver hydrosol and they want you to put into it a frequency that is known to cause cancer, skin cancer, in the sunlight. They could have taken 528. They could have taken my work. They could have said, hey, thanks, Dr. Horowitz, for the 528. We're putting 528 into all of our products. But no, they didn't. They didn't give me any credit. They stole my intellectual property, and then they created a competing product that doesn't put love into your homeopathic. And this is extremely important. Oxysilver is the first and only product that has the capacity to completely shift the paradigm besides being a substitute for risky vaccinations and antibiotics, because all the silver hydrosols, the old colloidal silvers were fine for people who took them irregularly on occasion when they needed it. The advanced silver hydrosols are outstanding because they're a double superconductor. In my opinion, they're a double superconductor of sound and light, because silver is a superconductor of energy. It's one of the 3 top elements in the periodic table. You have copper, which controls the electron flow for your light bulbs, your electrical system. So copper is a great superconductor of electrons. Gold is a superconductor of electrons. And silver is a superconductor of electrons. Again, electrons are the source of all power in the universe, and they resonate certain frequencies. And so now you've got a double superconductor, because water is a liquid crystal superconductor. So oxysilver or the silver hydrosols are a double superconductor of electrons, frequencies. And so if you take that and you put into it a 528 frequency, you've created a homeopathic that syncs. It's in sync with your heart, whereby with faithful prayer, it is said, and people swear to the fact, that heartfelt loving intention expressed in prayer then creates miracles. That's how miraculous healings can be made to come about. It's virtually the Creator's technology based on sound, light, musical, mathematical, frequency resonance, the matrix of creation, the divine design or intelligent design of nature. Again, why is a chlorophyll molecule greenish yellow? Why is grass greenish yellow? It's because it's based on the divine design, the intelligent design, reflecting the musical mathematical matrix, the heart of which is 528 greenish yellow nanometers of light, 528 hertz frequency of sound, and that then you put that into a double superconductor, and then you add prayer, faithful prayer, for a miraculous healing, and that's why we totally give everybody a full money back refund, and we have very few takers. Because if you feel like yourself coming down with a cold or flu, if you simply do what I'm saying, you take oxysilver 3 capfuls with heartfelt loving intention prayer that you stay healthy, nobody gets sick.
Wow. Now, do you think that's why in chemtrails there's aluminum and barium, because they're metals, and they're trying to throw like negative frequencies, so we're filled up with these aluminum particles in our bodies, and then they're shooting these negative frequencies where you want loving frequencies?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
And on top of that, you have the fact that aluminum, they're poisoning everybody because that's just like fluoride. It's a mind control, memory. You know,
Right.
The Alzheimer's disease, neurological disease, is associated with heavy metal poisoning like mercury and aluminum. And so you got barium, you've got aluminum, and then of course in the vaccinations you've got the mercury toxicity. This is what they do to make money and control the populations.
Yeah, I agree.
Dr. Len, what are your thoughts also about the dental adhesions for false teeth? I have always leaned towards the zinc in it that also would give the elderly Alzheimer's also.
Well, the zinc is probably not nearly as bad for you as the aluminum. You know, zinc is, it's actually pretty good for you to some extent. You know, when you've got a cold or flu, people believe, and even the naturopathic doctors believe, that a little bit of zinc and vitamin C can be of benefit. I'm concerned about more of the chemicals. I wouldn't worry too much about the zinc, but I guess it's wise to inquire and to research it a little bit more. Maybe I don't have all the information on the potential toxicity of zinc that you're talking about in a particular product.
All right, fair enough. Listen, Dr. Len, we got a caller on the line. He's he dropped out.
Nope, we lost him.
Yeah,
Call
we
back
lost
if
him.
You're out there.
It's all right.
Call
I
back.
got a text question from user Veritas in the chat room. Veritas says, thank you both for being here this evening. It seems that the powers that be are looking to do the populace in via slow kill method, that is the slow boiling frog paradigm. Do you think that the powers that be will eventually look to endgame with a quick kill method, and will it be primarily based in biological type warfare?
You know, I think that's a wise concern and potentially a viable prophecy. Because if you think about it, like, you know, your show here, Fen, tonight, and what Godlike Productions does routinely, and what we're doing and our colleagues are doing, is outputting some heavy-duty reality checks that, and there's a general consensus that the Illuminati, the banking cartel, has been pressured to change some of their timing, some of their agendas. And it occurs to me that the Inquirer is accurate, because if push comes to shove, you talk about self-esteem. These Illuminati characters have such low self-esteem. They're in such great fear about losing their massive wealth and their plans going under. They are psychopathological. They are psychopaths, period. And the reality is, what would you expect from a psychopath who's engaged in fear, who has a lot to lose, if you suddenly now try to pull the carpet from under them? You can expect that they're going to lash out in a most hideous and pathological and deadly manner. And what is the most deadliest warfare technologies today that wouldn't completely devastate the infrastructure, but would eliminate enough of the population so that they could militarily maintain control? And you're talking about the biological weapons and the virological weapons that they have. And that's a great concern. And that is a concern that everybody doesn't have a grasp on that. Read the book, Emerging Viruses, AIDS and Ebola, and you'll begin to realize, holy smoke, they've had the capacity to completely destroy the world's population with immune suppressive viruses since the 1960s.
And also, they like to profit while they take us out. So if they can profit by making people sick, so they need more pharmaceuticals, they become dependent on them, because suddenly all these other illnesses show up, like restless leg syndrome and restless eye syndrome and
weird stuff.
And diabetes or whatever else is going to come as a side effect of these pharmaceuticals. They hope that you will become dependent on them before they take us out. So that's what their main game is. And also, I don't see them doing as much a nuclear weapon on any place as I can see them doing it through the vaccination programs, because that way they don't put too much damage on things that they put out there, unless it's like a test area that they plan on doing, like the World Trade Center or something. But I don't really see them liking to take out a lot of stuff that's going to cost them their bottom line. I think they make more money by doing it through vaccination.
Yeah, I agree totally. Sherri, you used to work in a newsroom, right?
Yes.
Okay, and so they would be suppressing news. Would your bosses be like, you would find something or you want to report something, you wrote an article, and they were like, no, we're not going to do that news today, and they would step into something else? Was that how it was? What made you or decide to quit? Yeah, go ahead.
It was actually even worse than that, because the people that are actually writing the articles in the newsroom, they are writing it because they're told that they need to write it. You don't have a choice on what you can write. And when you first work there, they make you look for sprinters. They make you watch sprinters that are going to come in. And sprinters, basically, they send in feeds that say, okay, we have a dead body here, we have a dead body there. And then you have to watch like all this raw feed come in. This is how you start. And you start to look at it and they go, okay, now you're supposed to tell us the time code when you see a body, because that's what people want to see. They just want to see a dead body or a body that's covered with a sheet. And these sprinters actually are they don't work with the news stations. They're freelance people that are always out there listening to the police signals to be on the scene of accidents that happen. So that's the first news that they want to cover locally anyway. And anywhere you work, where I was in Los Angeles, it was the local Los Angeles news. That's the first thing you're going to look for, is local death. The second thing you're going to look for is American death, like in other places. And then you're going to look at what the other news stations are also putting out, so they don't put out anything that you're not going to be covering as well. So there's competition. And so you have no choice in, with the LA news especially, it's all about entertainment as well. So firstly, you got the people that are hurt and the deaths. Deaths are more important than people that are hurt. And then you have the entertainment. You have the celebrity stuff that happens, like the local news, what actress or actor is up to what, or what producer is up to what, like the TMZ stuff, because TMZ and Good Day LA, which is the news program that I was working with, they're pretty much connected. And I'm sure you know who the paparazzi site TMZ. I mean, people don't realize how intertwined the tabloid stuff is with the mainstream media stuff. And so they work closely together. And And so then you have that. So in LA, it's really not a great test market to know what the other cities do, because with LA, it's so mixed up with the entertainment industry. But I can tell you that the people that were writing the articles, they had no writing ability at all. They barely knew how to write. They only got the job because they knew someone in there. If you basically were trying to write something, they would always look at it and then they wouldn't put it out there because it wasn't something that they wanted. If you did something that was not what they asked you to do, then you could potentially get fired. It was so controlled. And then you ask the producers, well, how is this person even writing for you? They don't know how to write. And and then they'll go into the whole nepotism. I mean, they'll tell you, oh, so-and-so is related to whoever. And basically they got the job that way. But the producer would have to go through it and redo the whole thing again. And they have a format of the way it's done. It's done. You have to watch the pattern of the anchor. Like I wrote for one of the anchors, you have to watch the pattern of how they speak, how they introduce things, and you have to write in that pattern. So it wasn't something that I would even normally write in. And then they don't even know whether they're going to put your name on it. It's just going to go on as one of the writers, and they'll put it like initials, like SK, but they won't like even give you credit for it because it's not really anything you can be proud of. It's a stupid thing that's a news story that came out that the anchor's going to read in their own pace and style, so you're going to write it for that anchor. It's the most contrived, most idiotic thing to do. And I learned a lot working at a news station, but I could not believe how, you might as well work at McDonald's. It's really not a lot different than, especially if you're related to somebody. In my case, I just happened to have a woman who interviewed me who liked me and gave me an opportunity, and I interned there, and then they offered me the job. And I'm telling you, I wouldn't take a job permanently working with Fox or any of the news stations. I don't know. I don't think they could pay me $1 million to do that job because there's no place for creativity. The only thing I can tell you can get from it is you can learn how a newsroom operates. But then after that, there's nothing else to learn from it because you're not going to get anything out of it. You're not going to learn anything else.
Sure. Yeah. And that's absolutely right. Like when you watch like NBC or something like Good Morning America, you got the Bush's daughters in there, and you got, I even hear, the Clinton's daughter is now going to be a news reporter. So it's like these people, it's who you know. And then basically you got writers like yourself, and they're just robots,
Yeah, exactly. You got that right.
I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Hey, Sonny, let me slip in. I've Fast Cash. He ended up calling back. Can I slip him in?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, hold on. Fast Cash, you ready? You're on the line.
Fast Cash right here. Hi, you guys do take calls from black people, don't you?
Excuse me?
You take calls from black people.
We love black people calling in.
Okay, well, cool. Well, I'm telling you, I don't know if you guys can read this GLP stuff or how many places you guys are broadcasting, but we've heard this meditative tone stuff before, and I know 528 be on a thing, and it's isoponic and everything. But I was just asked, could it help with sexual deviancy? I mean, I don't know. What are your thoughts on solving sexual deviancy problems with 528 megahertz?
Did you get that?
I think was it?
Can 528?
That was for the doctor. That was the question for the doctor. So I'll hang up and listen to the response.
All right, thank you.
Whoa, what a dick.
Oh, right.
What a fucking dick, man. Did
All
he take a bong hit before he fucking said that?
But yeah, I get the question. In other words, he has sexual deviancies, and he wants to know if your frequency can help change that. I don't know if he's homosexual, if he's a black homosexual person. I don't know, but that's the question.
Well, let me tell you.
I don't know. I'm just saying.
I think it was a COINTELPRO agent provocateur that called in to discredit everything and everyone that we've been talking with, I think that this is what they do. They send in these yo-yos that are sick and sad within themselves. They're psychopaths themselves, and they they create this, and we've seen this on our radio show. Sherri, haven't you seen that?
Yeah. What was one recently that we had on there? Actually, I've noticed there was two of them that stood out in my mind, but there was one that happened recently, right?
Yeah.
It was something. Oh, a psychic. I was on the air, and I thought that there was somebody who called on the line.
At any rate, this is. We could talk about the subject. I mean, the reality is that 528 love is not. It's not about a sexual thing. It's like if your sexuality is tied up with your self-esteem. Okay, I can see. Like you're not going to be a happy camper if you are engaged in a dissonant mental view of an opposite sex or even your own sex. You got to be kind of like in sync with what's real, what's natural, what's loving, and it's not a distorted, perverse.
What was his question?
I think it was like, what can 528 do for sexual dysfunction? Is that it, Ben?
No, that's deviancy.
Deviancy, right.
Deviancy.
Doc, I love you, man. I really do, but I wouldn't even dignify that with an answer. That guy was like total dick. He really was. Let's move on. He was total dick.
All right.
Really, I don't want you to waste your time on this ass.
Okie doke.
Listen, we do have another question here from Bad Hair Day. Can you please ask Sherri if we set what is shown on the news, that is what we like to see, and give rating for, or do the stations set the agenda? Are they just feeding us what we want to see?
Just a second. Let me just finish with this. Also noted he called in and said, do you take calls from black people?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a red flag.
That's a red flag for a COINTELPRO, because that's what they do is they separate black from white, Jew from Gentile, Christian from Muslim, rich from poor, man. This guy was a COINTELPRO agent provocateur.
Right. COINTELPRO or not, the guy was still an asshole.
Yeah. My answer to the
bad hair.
The bad hair's question is that yes, they control everything. You don't have a choice in what. They basically know what's popular. For instance, people want to know about the celebrities, and they want to know, unfortunately, about who died. And so that's if people didn't want to know that, then they wouldn't be putting that out there. But they do use a lot of distractions. They never give you the full story. It's all controlled media. And if you ever notice, it changes. Usually the stuff that comes out in the very beginning about a world episode, something that's going on, like what happened with the Sandy Hook incident. In the beginning, they told you different things, and a lot of that, I believe, was probably more true. Like the one woman who actually saw the killer actually looked in his eyes. And then later on, that story changed where she only saw his boots. So that's an example of how they cover their tracks, and they don't give you the full information. A lot of times, they just let it out, and it gets edited later where they say, well, we shouldn't talk about that anymore, or we're going to go in a different direction with the story. And so the media is completely controlled. They know what people want to hear as far as like the local deaths or the deaths of celebrities or famous people, also what they're doing, who they married, and all that kind of stuff. They know that, and that's great because that's what they would like to tell us while they're doing all of their evil stuff in politics and in the world. They want to really wrap everything up into the where people are all enthralled in the celebrity fan club.
Yeah, distraction, deception,
Exactly.
illusion. And let me just add this too. You have to understand that the mainstream media plays to the human ego. It doesn't play to the heart. And what I mean by that is your ego as a structure, a psychological structure, deals with pain, fear, loss, or any real or imagined threats to survival, triggers the ego, which is a survival mechanism. It's mechanical. It's stimulus response, literally. And so it is the engineering risk factor. What enables the Illuminati and propagandists to control humanity is that ego mechanism. And so the news anchors and the news media play to people's pain, fear, loss, real or imagined threats to survival. That's your news. It's anchors, the news anchors. That's a neuro-linguistic programming. It's called news programming. It's a program that triggers you to go into this neurotic ego, fear-based functioning, and then you become no longer a spirit-filled soul capable and worthy of administering God's magnificence through your own life. You know, again, if 80% of your body is water, that means 80% of your body is God. So you're a powerful co-creator. You're a Holy Spirit-filled temple capable of producing miracles. And what gets that suppressed is not simply the music and the frequencies and the poisonings, but it's this media, mind control, manipulation, fear-based indoctrination system.
And also, I want to answer that question further. I also wanted to point out that when the anchors come in the morning, you know, news changes. There's always something new that happens. If it's something that's been going on, like a case, like the Anthony case, or some like national killing or whatever, they will continue on with it. But there's an agenda, and the news anchors really don't have any. They can't really tell what they can say. They're really given that by the producers. Producer says, okay, this is what happened. This is what you're going to talk about. And that's what they're given. If they offer you any sort of a rating system, that's basically what they give you on there. And they're not giving you an ability to rate on other topics. They're giving you, okay, we did this and this and this story. What's the most interesting to you? And they're not giving you the other stories that you may want to hear. So what they're giving you in the pool is not exactly everything. And that's what I noticed, is that they give you just what they want you to rate on. And that's when they say, okay, yeah, it's like kind of, you know, this is what you rated on. Well, you only gave us a choice of 5 different things, and they had to do with sports, and they had to do with Hollywood, and it wasn't really any, or had to do with Obama, you know, going to Hawaii, his vacation. What did you think about that? Or, you know, whatever. It wasn't anything like major that had anything to do with things that could change, that makes you think. And that's what it is. It's to keep us dumbed down. And so we don't really think for ourselves. We're just glued to the TV for nonsense.
And that same exact technology, that behavioral engineering technology, is used in the polling, where they do polls for politics, because they don't ask you the full spectrum of questions that would allow you to go outside of the box, to think outside the box, to react outside the box. They limit the questions. And this is standard, like the think tanks, like the institutes that the global industrialists utilize to direct, like Stanford Research Institute, these types of think tanks and the polling organizations, they're all controlled literally as not simply because they're interested in keeping their thumb on the pulse of the attitudes of Americans or people worldwide. They're actually using that to direct the attitudes of humanity.
Exactly. Like Stratford is one of them. And they basically do a whole thing with, they do it with demographics, where you live, what your interests are in the area, where, you know, they'll go even down to neighborhoods. They'll go right down from, you know, national to city, to state to city, to areas, to neighborhoods, to income levels, to men versus women, and to religion. And they'll take it all apart, and then they'll basically figure out what they can give you, what they can feed you, and reel you in so you stay glued to their media propaganda. And it's getting much, much worse. I mean, you watch the subliminal messaging now. I mean, you can see how people could become glued to that, and how every week they have a sitcom on, or they have a TV series, and you can't wait to watch it the next week, because our lives have just become so dumbed down that we have nothing going for us in our own life, that we look toward what's going on television to really live. And that's just sad. And I know people like that. A lot of people are like that. I think the majority of Americans are glued to their TV set, and they can't wait for the next episode of, you know, 2.5 Men or CSI or any of these shows, because that's how they keep you glued. And it's always about forming our minds to think and feel a certain thing. Like there's a movie what was that movie that just came out and won all those Academy Awards? It was a horrible movie about Obama being caught.
Oh, yeah. I can't remember the name.
Zero or something? Zero.
Yes, Zero Dark 30, exactly. Yeah. That movie was, I don't know if you saw it, but it was one of the worst, slowest movies. I couldn't even get through it. It was so slow. It was painfully slow. And that movie won all kinds of awards. I couldn't see why it won that award. But when you realize why they did it, it's because more people will go and see a movie that wins all those awards because they're believing it's a really great movie. But why did they want everybody to see that movie? Because that movie...
It's propaganda.
Exactly.
Right, exactly.
Because it told you that Osama bin Laden, Osama bin Laden was killed when they said he was killed, and this is how they went after him. No, he died in 2001. If anybody wants to research that, they can. There's no way he was running around with a kidney dialysis machine on a camel in Afghanistan, and he had horrible problems with his kidney. And Benazir Bhutto, who's the former prime minister, now assassinated, of Pakistan, she even said it in 2007, right before she was assassinated. She said Osama bin Laden was killed in 2001, and she lives in that part of the world, and she's a politician, and they didn't like her because she would come out and she would say things that were the truth.
Such as like the Taliban is associated with basically Pakistan, where she was, is the major funding organization that legitimized the Taliban. So if anybody would have known the truth about Osama bin Laden, she would have, and she told the truth, and she was assassinated because of it.
And people don't realize that who was Osama bin Laden? Osama bin Laden was working with George Bush. He was working with the CIA. And where are people's minds when they think this guy just came out of nowhere as an enemy of state? They don't realize the enemies of state are our U.S. president, working for the guys above, the globalists that are trying to take everybody out, like the Rockefellers. So people are not even there, and they're not willing to wake up. And what even makes it harder for them to wake up is you got awards given to movies like this Zero Dark 30.
Yeah, I want to just add one thing that you said, Sherri. The amount of people that are actually involved in counterintelligence to administer the agendas of the rich and famous, the globalists, through the newsrooms and through the level of demographics that you were talking about, you're talking about thousands and thousands of operatives. And literally, we've got those. In fact, you can go online and you can see that the tens of thousands of Central Intelligence Agency agents are apparently insufficient. They're still drafting a lot of young people who think that they're going to go into the CIA and serve the NSA in the United States of America bravely and proudly by being agents and engaged then in the system of intelligence where you're given intelligence information on a need-to-know basis only. It's all compartmentalized for optimal control from the top down, and yet they have thousands and thousands and thousands of people, agents, who are engaged in every single community, whether you're talking about the New Age industry or the conspiracy industry or the patriot community or the Christian fundamentalist community. Every single one of those have been infiltrated and not eliminated. It hasn't. For example, the Ku Klux Klan. Go back and study history. They were infiltrated not for being eliminated. They could have totally eliminated the KKK. The FBI had that opportunity. They didn't. They took it over, and they are controlling it to this very day. David Duke et al. Are puppets of these rich and famous global industrialists. All they do is, for example, now creating the Zionist threat, the Zionist, the Jew world order concept propaganda that then is literally creating hate against Jewish people. And again, divide the sheep to conquer the flock, and that's how you create wars, and that's how you make money off of humanity's suffering.
And, like we never say that there's not Jewish people involved. There are, and there's other people involved as well. But when they want to pin it on one scapegoat, one group of people, just to create the division, if they would say, hey, like I say, at the highest levels, you have, Jews, you have Christians, whatever. You have all kinds of people at the same table. You have Muslims sitting at a table deciding, at the globalists they are, having dinner, deciding our fate, saying how are we going to use these mofos as our pawns? How are we going to just use them and manipulate them? And let's just keep playing with them. Let's create this divide and conquer game. Let's keep it going as long as we can, because once these people come together, we have not a shot. And that's their whole thing that they bank on. And people, they buy this hook, line, and sinker. And we always tell them, you shouldn't. It's not about race. It's not about religion. These are evil people. They're individually evil. I don't care what race
right.
they or religion they come from. They are evil. They have an agenda, and that's to keep their money. It's to keep their power and to keep us suffering and keep the divide and conquer game up.
Yeah, the manipulation is outrageous. And indeed, they're not of the monotheism. They're not into, there's monotheistic religions. There's Eastern religions and theologies and philosophies, and there's the Western worlds where we believe, the Muslims believe, the Jews believe, the Christians believe in one God. These entities that are controlling the banking cartel, the energy and the pharmaceutical cartel, I call them the military, medical, petrochemical, pharmaceutical, banking cartel. They are agnostics. They don't believe in anything but money and power. And as Nixon said, absolute power corrupts absolutely. These people are pure evil, and that they don't pray to the same God of any Muslim, any Christian, or any Jew that are real. And, it's kind of like Jesus said, beware of those who call themselves Jews who are not. You look at Henry Kissinger as a classic example of that. He's a guy who wanted to march with the Nazi youth in the street in Nazi Germany before he came to America and worked on Project Paperclip to exfiltrate the Nazi scientists, including von Braun and Hitler's worst, into American industry and into the American military. So there's a classic Jew who is really not a Jew. In fact, he was excommunicated by the Orthodox rabbis of Israel, stating he's responsible for war crimes. He's obviously not following Moses' law, 10 Commandments. So you've got that kind of creature. And, of course, today in America, we're dealing with a Christian nation, supposedly. So the same thing holds true. Beware of those who call themselves Christians who are not. And the reality is, there's classic examples. The Rockefeller family is one example. They're supposed to be Baptist. Well, excuse me. They're conducting genocide. The God of Baptists is not the God of genocide. Right. And, you're dealing with this hypocrisy that's outrageous and deadly. And that's what we, the people, need to wake up to realize that we've been had, we've been abused, we're being killed, and we need an alternative paradigm.
And to blame a race or religion, a group of people, also takes the blame off of the real villains. Nobody's looking at the real villains when they want to blame the Jews for everything. Well, who's going to really look at who's really behind it? We'll just blame the Jews. And it's just really sad. And we've seen it over and over again. It's just horrible. And that's what they know people will buy it and they sell it to them. And we try to educate people on the truth, and ignorance is so far out there that it's sometimes difficult to really educate people on it. But it's we're doing our best, and thank God we have allies in the alternative media like you guys and Michael Vara, that we can actually go on the air and tell the truth about what's happening and what's going on without being told that we can't say certain things. So
exactly. Hey, listen.
Hi, Ben.
Yeah, we got a little feedback here. I got a caller here. Let me do David. Okay, that didn't sound too good. Yeah, would you?
Hey, Ben. Hold on.
Hello?
Hey, David, you're live on the air, man.
I had two questions for Dr. Horowitz.
First is about the field called functional medicine. It's a new field of medicine that is trying to become more progressive. But I noticed that they don't mention anything about silver or about sound frequencies. What do you think about that new field?
Well, I haven't studied it. We've been so involved. I'm dealing with litigation up the yin-yang. I've been learning law in order to defend against the COINTELPRO agents that have been attacking us. And that's been a blessing for me. But, again, like you just answered your own question, I don't think too much of it if they don't grasp the foundation upon which a human organism is based. Sound and light, water is where it's at. And if you understand sound and light travels very, very rapidly through your Holy Spirit-filled temple water base. You look at DNA, another great example of this. It's obvious that the science has come very, very legitimately through even journals such as the Journal of Science, where DNA is involved in encased in a matrix of structured water. What is structured water? Well, that's basically water that has a six-sided hexagonal resonant energy and sacred geometry to the actual molecule, which is H2O, which is a tetrahedron molecule. And because of the polarity of the molecule, you get a six-sided hexagonal shape ring. That's just like carbon-6. Our organic chemistry ring is six-sided. The snowflakes are six-sided. The bee's honeycomb is six-sided. Why? Because it is reflecting the 528 hertz. 5 plus 2 is 7, plus 8 is 15. Add the 1 plus 5, that's 6. That's the third note of the original musical scale. The miracle 6, do, re, mi, miragistorum in Latin, miracles in English. It's miracle 6. It's how British Secret Service MI6 got its name. If you look at the intelligence agencies and the secreting of the most important intelligence, you look at the United States Navy and the British Navy that controls MI6 and CIA. And now you begin to understand if you are engaging a new paradigm and you leave out the most valuable intelligence, I don't think much of whatever it is that you're doing.
I also think that you should check on who's advancing that. It'd be very interesting to know who's advancing that progressive medicine, because whoever's really behind it and omitting these very important fundamental ways to heal yourself naturally is definitely part of an agenda. And we always notice that when people omit stuff, you should look at who is putting it out for sure.
Follow the
money.
One
of them is Dr. Tent, and he has a YouTube video, and he actually includes some of Dr. Horowitz's videos in there. I don't know if you're familiar with him.
No.
Let me just give you a little bit of background. Horowitz, Dr. Horowitz, obviously myself, is a character that is hard for any person that is trying to make inroads into being successful for an organization to actually fully endorse and really herald. And the reason for that is because, again, everything that I'm saying triggers somebody's buttons. It's just so profound. And the truth that shall set us free is that way. And basically, I've experienced this with the ACAM. There's the American College of Alternative Medicine. They're the most advanced alternative medicine group. I was invited to speak there, and on YouTube is that lecture. It is a presentation on hydroengineering, freedom from infectious diseases. So if you stick in that title in YouTube, hydroengineering, freedom from infectious diseases, you'll get my presentation before about 500 of the most advanced physicians in the United States, people who, if you would think that they're going to grasp the truth and the way to heal people, these guys and gals would. And so I presented, and I was asked by the directors of that organization to be engaged in a panel discussion. They promised to bring me back, and they promised to have me do some additional things. Well, gee whiz. Not only did the phone not ring, but what they had scheduled me to be involved in, they canceled with no really good excuse, no reason, and no apology. So, I've witnessed this time and time again.
Opposition.
It's really controlled. That's right. Sherri's got a great concept. Why don't you share a little bit about controlled opposition? Because I think that's a concept that most people need to know about that don't know about.
Well, controlled opposition gives you the semblance that they're working on your side, that they have every element. You hear them talk and it sounds like, wow, they think just like you. They really are on the same page. But then what they do is they work for an agenda. So they're only saying specifically what they're allowed to be saying, what they're told that they can say, the information that they need to relay at that specific time. Controlled opposition works really good for the New World Order agenda, because what it does is it gives people who are right now, especially with what's going on in the world, they're starting to now question the government. So they'll give you this whole thing like how, why you should be hating your government, why there's all these reasons why the government is no good and you should hate the government. So now everybody's on board for that. So what's the next step? One world religion, one world government, and everybody's just going to jump on board for that and say, oh, that's the answer. We're all going to go for it because so-and-so is just like us, and they say that's the way to go. This is the way they're going to actually lead the sheeple. But in order for them to do it, they do it through controlled opposition. An example, I wrote an article called Sicko, which was about Michael Moore, the filmmaker. If you watch some of his films, you'll look at it and you say, wow, I identify with that. I agree with that. He sounds like he's on the same page as me. And then you start to look at, for instance, for Capitalism, a Love Story, one of his films, he badmouthed Lloyd Blankfein. He actually says that Lloyd Blankfein is the reason why capitalism doesn't work and why, it's not fair. And
tell him who Lloyd Blankfein is.
Lloyd Blankfein actually is the CEO of Goldman & Sachs, right? So Goldman Sachs runs the whole entire Wall Street. And
ABC Disney also, they fund the Weinstein Brothers, which produces Michael Moore's films.
Exactly. So here he is bad-mouthing Lloyd Blankfein in his movie, and you research who is it that's actually producing his film, and it's Lloyd Blankfein. So there you go. That's a perfect example. They allow themselves to be used and actually ridiculed to get a message out to make you believe that they're working on your side.
Right. I think
Of course, he's against capitalism, but look at all the money he's got, and he's also an opponent of healthcare and the healthcare industry. But you see how fat the guy is. Gets any fatter, they're going to have to assign him a hurricane name.
And I actually recently saw something happened in the news with RFK Jr. getting arrested for him not wanting them to build the tubes with the fuel tubes going across from Canada throughout the country. And he got arrested for that. But then you look, how is he arriving at these protests? He's coming in his private jet. And how is that run? By fuel. I mean, the whole thing is that these people, who are they working for? And out there pretending to be activists for we the people, but really, who do they work for? And they're out there putting out this information that they want you to hear, but at the same time, they're all hypocrites.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, thanks a lot, David. Listen, can I slip in a couple of text questions here? I'm starting to pile up. All right, Cowgirl's got two of them. Can you ask Dr. Lynn if he thinks taking liquid chlorophyll daily is a good idea to help remove heavy metals from your body? And this is for either Sherri or Lynn. I read that Barack Obama uses a little-known, highly deceptive and manipulative form of hack hypnosis on millions of unaware Americans and reveals only what a few psychologists and hypnosis NLP experts know.
Well, I'll take the first one. Sherri is a very knowledgeable about Barack Obama. I'll let her handle the second one. I love the question. Chlorophyll is miraculous. Let me tell you a little bit about chlorophyll and why it very likely would be able to help greatly in detoxification. You see, chlorophyll, that greenish yellow pigment in plants, literally takes, as I mentioned, that frequency of light from the sun, the heart of the rainbow, that greenish yellow color, and it reflects it into our eyes to help us heal, but it also produces the oxygen. If you go on to YouTube right now, I'm sorry, not YouTube. I've got a little, actually, I started to boycott YouTube. I started a channel called Revolution Television, Vimeo. And on Vimeo, there's a 26-minute program that I have called Natural Cure for Global Warming. And you see that what chlorophyll does is it takes carbon dioxide, which is supposedly the main problem on planet Earth, and I show you that that's not really the main problem on planet Earth. It's not the carbon dioxide. It's the petrochemical pharmaceutical industrialists that are acidifying everything. So go on to Vimeo, Revolution Television, and watch that Natural Cure for Global Warming 26-minute program, and you'll really be well educated as what the basic problem is. And chlorophyll really is a solution. And here's some specifics about it. So it takes that frequency of light, of love, and it then converts the carbon dioxide to oxygen that sustains us. And that if you look in all of natural medicine, one of the most powerful areas is oxygenation and ozonation of the blood. And the reason for that is why it's so powerful. Why oxygen, the breath of life? And in fact, the Creator's Hebrew name, Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, Yahovah, means literally translated, to breathe is to exist. So the Bible also says that the life is carried in the blood. And so I'll come back to this in a second. It's the hemoglobin in the blood that's carrying the oxygen. But and there's a reason for that. I'll tell you in a second. But this very exciting fact is that the oxygen is being pumped out with that frequency of resonance of energy that carries that greenish yellow frequency of love, and that this chlorophyll molecule is also precisely shaped into the sacred geometry of the hexagonal form I spoke about a few minutes ago. The snowflake design, the water molecule, tetrahedron and hexagonal shape design is reflected in the chlorophyll, and that molecule then, ounce for ounce, literally, can be used as a substitute for blood. Literally, if you don't have somebody to donate blood and you're in a dire strait, turning to chlorophyll and infusing pure chlorophyll into your bloodstream would give you probably a safer and a better way to infuse a human being and basically restore their blood volume. Now, the reason for that is because the sacred geometry of chlorophyll, the actual chemical molecule structure, is virtually identical to hemoglobin. The only major difference between the two molecules, between chlorophyll and hemoglobin, is that chlorophyll has magnesium and the hemoglobin has iron at the center of it. Other than that, it's virtually identical. And so that's why it can be used as a substitute, and that's why I believe the question is accurate. The comment that it would be helpful in depolluting, in rejuvenating and restoring and detoxifying the body is extremely likely. And if one simply studies how it does that, you go into understanding then the power of oxygen carrying that electron, resonating in love, 528, and suddenly now you have a whole paradigm, not just shift, but shattering. This has the capacity to shatter the medical paradigm. Why? Because it's the greatest secreted truth that has been heavily suppressed for millennia. The information I'm sharing now goes back to the ancient times, the ancient Levitical priests and the ancient Pythagorean mathematical scholars, the Aristotle. In fact, I love Aristotle. He created the entire field of science. The book that spawned the field of science was called physics. And the word itself, physics, comes from philos, which is love. So again, what is the love frequency? What is the power of love? Love is the universal healer. And the reason for that is, again, it resonates in a frequency that's at the heart of the musical mathematical matrix of creation, reflected in every blade of grass. That chlorophyll, I believe, if people studied it and knew what it was really about, would not only be the answer to the major health problems that the world faces, but it would be the answer to all of the world's problems.
All right. Thanks, Dr. Len. Sherri, do you need me to repeat part 2 of Cowgirl's question?
Well, I think it had to do with Barack Obama and subliminal messaging, hypnosis, NLP. Was that what?
Yeah, we actually, the former administration had posted a video on him several months ago, an interview that he did. And if you were paying attention, you actually saw what Mr. Obama was doing, President Obama was doing. There was a quote out of that video. Jay, maybe you can help me out, where Obama had used terminology that he would only speak a certain way, like with his mother, in a way to manipulate her.
I can't remember.
Yeah. But here, I'll repeat the question for you real quick. I read that Barack Obama uses little-known and highly deceptive manipulative form of hack hypnosis on millions of unaware Americans and reveals only what a few psychologists and hypnosis NLP experts know.
Well, I can tell you that Obama doesn't write his scripts, that his scripts are written. Last time I heard they were written by a 22-year-old kid. If the kid is involved in this, I don't know, but I do believe that Obama is a puppet. Whatever Obama does, he's told to do. He's not an addition. He's not that bright. He's a Manchurian candidate. He's perfect for the job. He doesn't have to question anything. And if I had to say, I'd say he was an idiot as much as George Bush Jr. is an idiot, on that level of idiocy. Now, when you look at who he hung out with, William Ayers, who really boosted him up to where he is today. William Ayers, it's so much hypocrisy when you think about it, because every time I go through the airport, I think about William Ayers. William Ayers blew up the Oklahoma City bombing when he was part of the Weather Underground. Here we are getting our water taken away from us, being treated as terrorists, and we have Barack Obama, who was funded by William Ayers, to become president of the United States. So where's like the real rationale in that, right? And now you have him as somebody out there. When he was running for president, this is what I noticed. He was always preaching hope and peace. He was the right person for the job, right at the right time. Basically, what I can say about him is that they set up a lot of things around him when he was running for president. They increased the people that would listen to him, so it looked like there was so much more people always listening to him. They had people faint in the audience. They claimed that he was the Messiah. Do you remember that, when they would say all those things about him?
Yeah.
Yep.
So what they basically did was they promoted him as this superior being that was like a Messiah or the Messiah, that when people would be around, they would actually faint at the mere presence of him, that things that he would say would be needed. You needed to take them not just with a grain of salt and not just listen to them, but take them much more deeply than really what he was even projecting, because Obama is a tool. And they're using him to the fullest extent. I don't know. I haven't seen the video. I haven't seen how he used it or whether he was aware what he was using. I do know that his speeches are definitely manipulated and worked, especially now that he is president, depending on the agenda. They're worked to what people need to hear at the time. Now, I know that people try to claim that he's inspired by this doctor who lived, Milton Erickson, who was a psychiatrist that lived in the early 1900s. And he basically was able to use, and it was similar to what we spoke about earlier today, Ben, about how that woman was actually able to believe she had the legs. He was able to actually create when he thought he was dying as a kid, he was actually able to create this other reality for himself, where there was a tree in front of his room and he could remove the tree and only see the sun and the sunset. And that's all he wanted to see. He didn't want to see the tree that was blocking it. So if you can look at that in a psychological way of what Barack Obama does, where people can't see they can't even see the tree. They're in the forest and they can't even see the tree. There might be something to that on a deeper level. And also you have to think about the fact that he's being run by Michael Aquino, who is doing the whole entire MK Ultra thing with media manipulation.
Yeah, we live and are broadcasting now from Hawaii. And we have a colleague of ours that we see on the beach every once in a while and enjoy conversations, who is an attorney and a retired attorney who actually grew up in the same neighborhood and actually was the tutor, the legal tutor of a young Barack Obama, who told us the story of when he was very young.
He was a lawyer too, this guy who was talking to you.
And he was on the street with friends, and they saw Barack Obama, a young child of maybe 8 or 10 years old, riding his bicycle by the group. And he remembers, and this was before Barack Obama's parents brought him in.
And also driving by the grandparents' house, they would say these things too.
Yeah, and basically that he was selected, he was going to be the next, or he was going to be an upcoming president of the United States. Now, this is when he was...
Be the first black president.
They actually said he was going to be the first black president. Thank you, Sherri. At any rate, he was only a child riding a bicycle, and then about 6-8 years later, this attorney was called to tutor Barack Obama, who was a fairly poor student and not very good at law. And so this fellow counseled him, tutored him, and then watched him develop from there into the president of the United States. And it just lent, the credibility to the whole concept that it's all controlled, that these people are groomed well in advance, and that with regard to the question of neuro-linguistic programming and the technology, I can tell you as a behavioral scientist, I mean, if you look at my degrees, I have a Harvard degree in public health in behavioral science, and the most powerful behavioral science deals with human communication, and that's what the field of NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, deals with, and those guys were at Harvard. And I studied their stuff a little bit. I was more into the media concepts of how the media can work and the technologies in the media can be used for health promotion. So I was always looking at it from the positive way to serve humanity optimally. And these guys were not. They were simply involved in how do you control human behavior for whatever way you wanted to. And you look at the ways in which people's eyes are accessing or processing the information in their brains as you're speaking with them. You look at the pace and the tone, and you match their kind of like movements and their communication styles. And those are the techniques of neuro-linguistic programming. And it's most certain that the President of the United States is trained in that technology. There's no question in my mind. And even if he, as Sherri mentions, probably accurately, he's not very bright, as the history indicates, that, he's still trained in that technology, and he's still counseled, and he's fed, and he's directed in how to administer that kind of communication.
Yeah, I mean, you can pretty much tell when he speaks that he's not really bright. I mean, I felt that from George Bush Jr. Now, his father, I felt, was evil and very intelligent. I also felt that Bill Clinton was very intelligent and is very intelligent. And so just because they're evil doesn't make them necessarily stupid. Right. But normally it's the latter. Usually evil people are very smart. But in Barack Obama's, I don't see him as evil as much as I see him as ignorant. And I just think that he's, happy to have the position of President of the United States. He's a talking head, and he's put there. He reads a script, and basically he's just happy to be able to read the script. He reads it well. When you first heard him run, he was stuttering a bunch. I mean, you could tell that they gave him lessons. I've studied that guy from early on. There was just something that just didn't seem right. And then you looked at his history and who he was connected to, and you saw that there was something definitely not right there. So that's how I started getting interested in really looking at him closer. But yeah, I agree that they have whatever they write in those speeches. And don't forget, it's not going to affect everybody. You have to be a great candidate for hypnosis. You have to be somebody who already has a sheep mentality that can easily be persuaded, that can be sold a bill of goods, that just because he's a president of the United States, he's right. Just because the mainstream media says something, that's right. And if it doesn't come from the mainstream media, then it's not right. That's the mindset you really have to be coming from to fall for these types of hypnosis. And so if you're like me, or you're like Len or Fen, or, I believe anybody else running the GLP program, you're not the normal candidate for hypnosis. You're not what they would say is the ideal candidate, because you already are awoken. But the masses are not awoken, and they're looking for hope. They're looking for a way that they feel like things are going to get better for them. They're trying to find light at the end of the dark tunnel, and they're looking to him to bring that to them. And if they're not, then they want to persuade you that he's the one that you need to look at, that's going to bring you out of this darkness into the light.
All right. Thank you. I got just two more here, unless any more comes in. Sherri, while I have you, I'll read you the searchers. Rabbit Wolf, we'll get to you in a second. Searcher would like to know, Sherri, if she thinks the mainstream media outlets feel threatened by the freedom of information that the internet provides.
Can you repeat that again? I'm sorry, Sam.
Sure. The searcher would like to ask Sherri if she thinks the mainstream media outlets feel threatened by the freedom of information that the internet provides.
I definitely think that they do, and that's why they actually mix up all of the crap with it, all of the COINTELPRO stuff, why they have people pretending to be truthers or people like us out there that are not really like us. And so you'll find that a lot of times there's people out there that'll say, oh, vaccinations are the worst. And then they'll badmouth Dr. Horowitz, who's at the leader of actually at the forefront of telling people about the dangers of vaccinations. Like they'll badmouth me or Len when we're out there telling the same things that they are, and they'll do it because they want to stomp on anybody that isn't controlled. So yes, I believe that that's why they're doing their best to control the alternative media as much as they can. The internet is very, very much a threat to them. And if they can keep on mixing it up with the Hegelian dialectic and all of this stuff that really confuses the masses out there, I think that is their bottom line. That is their goal.
And we've seen, as I've been involved in looking at online productions and publications, really since very early times, I've watched this internet, which is really, it was for us, a fantastic savior. And there's still so many wonderful things about the internet. What's tragic is that increasingly it's being hideously controlled and taken over. And for example, the Google X project and the Google Futures project, the Google's Earth project, they're all engaged in intelligence gathering from the internet. And if you study this a little bit, you'll find that the Central Intelligence Agency's for-profit equity investment organization, which is called InQtel, is working with Google to advance the technologies for human control. And increasingly, as a result of this, you're seeing that their outcome of the Google Futures project, where they're actually now, because of the clicking of your mouse on your desktop, is giving them data all about you. It's giving them every aspect of the way you think, what your likes, what your dislikes are, what you buy. And because of that, increasingly, you're watching pop-ups that are tailored to you. And that is increasing, and that is an increasing threat of how what we would have heralded and celebrated initially as a wonderful technology, a freeing technology, has threatened them to the extent that they have now done what they've done with every other industry. They have bought it out. They have purchased the most powerful of all of the industrialists in the field, and they have now twisted it. Again, you take God's technology and you twist it into something that manipulates it and enslaves people. and now you've got a satanic, pathology and technology, and that is what I have witnessed that they've done since I've been on the internet.
All right, and we have a question for you, Dr. Horowitz from Rabbit Wolf. Question for Dr. Horowitz. I have heard about 8 hertz being a healing frequency, 528 being 66 times 8. Do you believe there could be something more to be learned if we focus on 8 hertz increments?
Answer, yes, indeed. If you go back in history and you learn, first of all, Tesla, he actually said to his students, including Royal Raymond Rife, who came up with the fantastic microscopes that were made of crystals that could watch the pleomorphism, the changing from virtually what we're talking about, from nothing into something, from little specks into little microsomes, into little bacteria, into viruses, into parasites. It's called pleomorphism. And Rife's famous microscope was based on Tesla technology, and Tesla said, quote, if humanity only knew the powers of the 3s, 6s, and 9s, it would be a completely different planet. Completely different universe, end quote. And what is missing in that quote is what Tesla's mentors actually taught. Tesla's mentors were Aristotle, Plato, Pythagoras, Vitruvius, and Da Vinci. And what they taught, and by the way, this is summed up in the book that I came out with called Love, The Real Da Vinci Code. The Real Da Vinci Code has to do with the musical mathematics of creation. And those guys, the ancient mystery school Pythagorean math people, said that it's the 3s, 6s, 9s, and 8s. The 8 symbol is really a symbol of the way the universe is constructed in a double toroid. And if you look at the number 8, at the heart of it is a very special place where all of the vectors come together, a single spot. And that little single spot is a metaphor of what's called the 0-point energy, or the black hole of the universe, the place where things come from nothing into something. Literally, the cosmos, the universe, is created by those black holes, according to the most advanced physicists. And that point, in my opinion, is the heart, called 528. And so your question is totally accurate. If you take 528 and you half that, you've got 264. If you half 264, you've got 132. If you take half of 132, you've got 66. Now, all of a sudden, you see the power of 66. America's Highway, Route 66, Phillips 66. The 6s are the 528s. The symbols of 6s are the manifestation symbols, where you see the number itself as an icon for the spinning down from heaven, from a 0-point nothing, spinning down into the wholeness of earth. The round circle at the bottom of the 6. It's a manifestation symbol. And that's why the Christian community has taken on a distorted propaganda deception of the Bible verse 13:18, Revelation 13:18, that is the 666 verse. It says, herein lies wisdom. Let those who understand count the number of the beast, because it's also the name of a man, and his number is 666. I mentioned Kissinger earlier. Kissinger is that number 666 based on the alphanumerics of the English language. So the symbol 6 is not evil inherently. It is a symbol for physical manifestation or physical prospering. That's why in the alphanumerics, how I got Kissinger as being the 666 is when you take the multiples of 6 and you consider the alphanumerics of the multiples of 6 in the alphanumerics, like for A equals 1, B equals 2, C equals 3, on to Z equals 26, and then you start to use those numbers in place of the letters. Then you realize FOX, the F's, O's, and X's are all 6s. So Fox News, is a 666. When you play tic-tac-toe, the X's and O's, kisses and hugs, are 666, 666, 666. At the end of the game, you got 9 sixes. 6 times 9 is 54. 5 plus 4 is 9. That's completion. 9 is the completion number. It's the opposite of the 6, where you spiral up from earth into the wholeness of heaven. You rejoin Creator in completion. And so that's the alphanumerics. And the 8s are very important. Like if you go on to healthyworldstore.com, as a tribute from my heart to God's heart, all of the prices of all the products there come out to 8s. I've done that since about the year 2000 when we formed the company. I could, if I wanted to make money, primarily, I would make them all 6s. The XXX adult entertainment field is 666. It's the most lucrative of all of the media industries is adult entertainment. But I chose instead because I want to serve Creator. I want to serve humanity. So I created the numbers of all the products to be 8s. And so I completely endorse what the writer is saying. If you start to study this stuff, and that's really the reason why I created the exercises at the end of the chapters in the book, Love, the Real Da Vinci Code, is so that you begin to play with these numbers. Because it's like Tesla said, if humanity only knew the power of the 3 6s and 9s, and Aristotle and his boys said the 8s as well, then you've got a whole new universe and whole new possibilities. And that's really what I'm witnessing. It has helped me tremendously to discern organic chemistry, miracle, and the power of frequency in the manifestation of the chemistry and the chemical reactions. It has opened up left brain, right brain for me. It's helped me balance tremendously and get a lot of insight that I would never have gotten if I didn't come to terms with what the true meaning and power in these numbers are.
Wow. Thank you. To you, Sonny.
All right. Well, fantastic. Again, just amazing stuff. I have one more little question. There's a lot of sports bands out there. I have tested, you go to these sport fitness things, and I've heard of this one that's called Bionic Band, and it runs off a frequency of 7 to 9 hertz. Have you heard of those, and would you recommend those type things, wearing those, or?
Oh, sorry, Sonny. I thought you were talking about my vibrator. My bad.
Oh, whoa. No,
sorry.
I don't want to get into that, Herx.
Sorry.
All right.
Good. That's the reason why I like the questions too is because the 8, 7 to 9 hertz frequency is the Schumann resonance. It falls into the range of the Schumann resonance. It's 6 to 8 cycles per second, and some people have said it's shifted recently, and I wouldn't be surprised. But again, when you're dealing with the number 8, if you were to take 8 hertz, for example, and use that for therapy, I think you'd be pretty close to being phase locked into that frequency that would be restorative, as like you would be when you would take, instead of 528, you would take 264. I have, for example, on healthyworldstore.com, we have a Rife machine that's called the Miracle 6, and it's pretty well programmable. It's really beautiful, easy to use. It's a fairly well priced for what it does, professional model of a Rife machine. And what I do is I set it when I energize various things that I use in my products. I'll energize it with a Rife machine that's connected to some additional contraptions that I've created based on this understanding and the sacred geometrics of the simple mathematics we've been talking about. And I set the Rife machine because it doesn't allow you to do a 528. I set it to a 132. because it's a harmonic of 528. So I could go down to 8 hertz, and I could have, again, a similar result. It's just the same on a piano where, piano board, you play your low C, and then you play your middle C, which is like a C5 and 528, and then you go up to the upper range and play a C. It's all the same note. It's all the same virtual frequency harmonics, and that, I think, is a totally appropriate for healing. Again, you're getting back into, if the Schumann resonance of the earth is obviously in sync to the rest of the universe, which is based on this musical mathematics, and that, you can simply use that to understand, well, gee whiz, if you want to sync up with nature, you want to get an instant relaxation response and help yourself heal, obviously things like chlorophyll, like we've been talking about, and grass, and going out into nature and jumping into the ocean, those types of alternative technologies and therapies are extremely valuable, and they're all based on this understanding of frequency mathematics.
Excellent, excellent. Now, real quick, because I know the GLP people, and a lot of people have heard that verse of 666, the mark of the beast. And, the Illuminati do use that. Again, when you look at a lot of the satanic cults and the Masonry and Jesuits and so forth and so on, and a lot of logos, as you mentioned earlier, do use 666, and even the Bible, 66 books, so makes you wonder. It makes you wonder, definitely.
Yeah, I think the bottom line take-home message is that there's nothing inherently evil about any of the numbers. God created all the numbers. God doesn't create evil things. You've got like the concept of Satan falling out of fallen angels, angel of light. Well, again, what does, Satan do? He takes God's creations and he manipulates them to, instead of support people, to destroy people. And basically the same thing with love. If Satan, were going to do anything, he would take love and he would try to manipulate it, to distort it. And that's what Truott and company have done by trying to defame 528. The fact is that 5, as I mentioned, 5 plus 2 is 8 plus 1. 5 to 8, 5 plus 2 is 7 plus 8 is 15, 1 plus 5 is 6. So it's a 6, and that the number simply means that it has an inherent energy for miraculous manifestation. Again, 528 is the miracle note of the original musical scale. So it's miraculous manifestation, which means from nothing into something, from the 0 point energy, and that is not evil. It simply is what it is. It's a technology for creation. And of course, Satan would take it, then God's technology, and then turn it into something that is outrageously hideous. Again, such as XXX, adult entertainment, or Phillips 66, or America's Commercial Highway, Route 66. It's that kind of thing where you simply have to beware. You could use any technology for good or evil.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Oh, go ahead, Sherri. Go ahead.
I wanted to clarify something before we end the show about the Weather Underground, which I spoke about earlier. Actually, I wanted to clarify that they bombed the Capitol and the Pentagon. And I think I said Oklahoma City. I think might have said the Oklahoma City building or something. But I'm sorry. It's actually the Capitol and the Pentagon, which is actually much worse.
Right.
Because they're stopping you and you through TSA, and meanwhile they're look who's running the country. The people who bombed the whole entire Washington infrastructure there. So it's crazy. But I just wanted to clarify that before we ended the program.
All right, fantastic. Well, again, I just love this show. I think I've learned a lot, and I think the guests and you guys just been fantastic. So, just tell us, again, how do we get your books? How do we get some of your things that you're selling, and how to really enhance that love, that you guys are just totally pushing, which I'm totally loving.
Well, thank you for that. I appreciate that. You can support us by, again, we're on latenightinthe-midlands.com. You can listen to us on the radio there, or 528radio.com, or you can also go to healthyworldstore.com. And that's where we have great products. If you want to partner with us as an affiliate, you can go to healthyworldaffiliates.com. And if you're a musician, you can go to 528records.com, or if you just want to upload your music and get it transposed, you can go to 528records.com. Or if you just want to listen to music that's already been transposed into 528, you can go to 528radio.com. And again, if you want to read Dr. Horowitz's book, you can go to thebookoffive28.com.
Yeah, that's what I would, if you want to start and have a total blessing and really get what I've been talking about, go to thebookoffive28.com and order the book. And unfortunately, there's a group out there that have stolen some of the books from inventory. The only place I would recommend that you buy the Book of 528 is from healthyworldstore.com. And that would help us. Everything else, kind of like right now, is harming us because COINTELPRO has helped to destroy our publishing company in the past, and they still have some inventory. So I wouldn't recommend that you buy it from anywhere other than healthyworldstore.com.
And there's also we have another supporter as well, Cure Shop.
Yeah, Cure Shop is a new supporter of ours. And
CURESHOPPE.com. And yeah, if you want to purchase from there, that's really good as well because they support us. And if you want to read about how the 440 hertz was imposed on people, go to medicalveritas.org and click on the website that says Musical Cult Control. If you want to read about the attacks against us, we have waronwethepeople.com.
Yeah, I think waronwethepeople.com is an outstanding website that will keep you captivated for probably a solid day. You read through all the articles, and you'll really then be in my heart. You'll have a complete access to Sherri's heart. You'll know how we think, how we feel, and what are the biggest, in fact, concerns that we have concerning COINTELPRO and what's happening to America. If you want to know the solutions that I've been advancing, again, as I mentioned, the Book of 528 is outstanding, but online there is healthyworldsolutions.com, and that has my essays.
And love528.com. We have so many websites.
Yeah, love528.com is for the musicians to learn about why it is that tuning to 528 is the best choice. And at any rate, that's a little summary of what we've got.
Awesome. Thank you again just for this amazing show. All right, let me just toss the mic back to Rags.
All right, well, GLPBC's The Raw Feed would like to thank our guests, Sherri, Kane, and Dr. Len Horowitz, for sharing their investigative work into COINTELPRO, media manipulation, the Big Pharma lie, and the 528 frequency. Again, you can find out more about Sherri and Dr. Horowitz, as they mentioned at the websites they did mention, and at sherrikane.com, drlenhorowitz.com, and, of course, waronwethepeople.com. How about a shout out to our roundtable and our hosts, starting with Sonny Cardona and Kingman Art, and of course, our GLPVC Heart and Soul phenomenon. Another shout out to our VC team Isis JDO NZ Riva, and to our quality control technician Jay the Man. We thank you so much, sir. Okay, folks, don't just go away this week so fast. For the rest of the week on the Raw Feed Live, we have another great week of guests. Tomorrow, we welcome Anya Sophia and the Womb of Wisdom. Then on Wednesday, we have our regular monthly guest, the one and only Douglas Dietrich. And on Thursday, we welcome back to the Raw Feed Live, Lorraine Moret, as she will discuss our Earth and the radiation going on around our planet. That's, again, all this week, right here on the Raw Feed Live, starting at 11 p.m. Eastern, right here in the GLPVC chat and on all the live streams. That's it for now. The podcast will be up shortly. This is a GLP voice chat presentation in conjunction with GodlikeProductions.com. Have a great evening, everyone.
All GLPVC shows, to include that produced under the Raw Feed Live, said contents of any broadcast and all rights thereof are wholly owned by GodlikeProductions.com and their parent companies.